So Hakomi has been around for a long time, 4 decades, and it's been a somatic psychotherapy method. And how do you think it's relevant at this time?
Well, I think we're in a very interesting part in history. One thing is that the Eastern thinking comes into our work, and we're in a state where this deepens now, where people really start understanding the deeper meaning of mindfulness and how that can carry what we're doing in really different ways. So there's a fundamental shift in the depth of how we understand our psyche, our nature. We're moving closer to spiritual levels in psychotherapy. It's not so much about fixing, it's more about growth, and in a very essential way, very often directly leading up and to against spiritual growth. And that's one thing. The other thing is that it now becomes obvious that in 20 or 30 years, it is impossible to do psychotherapy without the body.
Mm.
The body is going to be a core piece of psychotherapy, and there's good reasons for it, because we cannot really access the deepest level of our being, what creates our personality, what creates our beautiful potential, and what creates our limitations through explicit memory, through deliberation, explanations, and reflection. That whole area is completely insufficient to reach those deeper levels. And we have to go with the feelings and the body, and the feelings and the body are closely related, and many people are now thinking about what they call bottom-up processes, where you start with the things that you do not know yet, that you just feel and sense and are aware of without having meaning about it yet. So in the future will be about how to find a base in your work that can deal for a while without any meaning.
Mm.
And then the third one that comes to mind right now is the obvious movement in psychotherapy towards compassion and self-compassion, as opposed to trying to fix something, and what that means, and how to apply it to a process, not just kind of wanting to do it and doing it like kind of maybe in a meditation way, but really integrated deeply into a psychotherapeutic process in a very directed and very precise way. So we're learning a lot from the Easties years, and I think it's really, really useful for us Westerners. And it's not going to leave again. We're actually learning something.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things is how will I be able to infuse processes in me and in the other with compassion and self-compassion in ways that allows a person to actually grow. And I bet I can come up with a number of other things why and what the world is happening in the world right now. But these seem to be the three most important things I can think of at the moment.
And I think there's also the benefit that the Hakomi method is also bi-directional. It's not just here is the wise therapist that will impart wisdom on the client, but there's a bi-directionality, a relational aspect to Hakomi, and I think that is also why this is so neat.
Yeah, that's true. I'm glad you mentioned it. Of course, research shows, and all the meta studies show, that most of what makes a psychotherapeutic session successful is the relationship, not the method.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a very, very clear understanding how that relationship should be, and how mindfulness creates states in the therapist that creates a relationship that is healing. That's a very core piece of our method, and I'm glad you mentioned it. Yes, and one of the things is, and it's really true, therapists have to realize that they don't know anything, really. Yeah. It's like, how do I work without the illusion that I know something about my client? Yeah. And, and the whole system of the healing professions is built around the idea that the therapist knows something about the clients and knows better than the client, and that's a total illusion.
Mm-hmm.
But if we give up, well, where are we then, and how can we act? And that we have really great answers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And this is where it comes full circle. This is what I have appreciated about Hakomi, that the principles will also help the therapist, right, to stay humble and keep inquiring into their own state from which they are helping, right? Where do they start to help?
I was very, Ron Kurtz and I were totally agreed about one fact, and that is that when we train our students, we train them to find a particular state of being. Mm. They can be just as crazy as they were before in their real life, but often it kind of bleeds into real life too. But we teach them to come to a state that is inherently growthful. Mm. And that is, in the end, will not only grow the client, but will also grow the therapist. And that is so rewarding. It gives us really, really. Ron always said, "I have more from my therapy sessions. I have more of it by clients." Yeah. And I mean, that is a little exaggerated, but there is some truth to it. Like, I don't think what I've gone through in my life, I was a really difficult person at some point. And I'm still a little bit difficult, but much less than I used to be. And I think that is what's given to me by being a therapist in this methodology.
Yeah, and all the research on co-regulation, right? That as humans, we co-regulate each other, and we need to co-regulate each other. And that's part of, I think, what we're finding out. And that's where Hakomi, again, has been really at the forefront intuitively, knowing that that's what heals. That's what helps the healing process.
When the therapist comes into the room, he's already an active ingredient and already has an effect just by coming into the room. And how they are in the room. And it's all through implicit communication. The client doesn't even know what influences them, but the state you're in triggers or shifts the state in the other. Mm-hmm. And that's a very important part.
Yeah, and this is part of why our trainings are so experiential, right? Because it's not something you can get the concept in 5 minutes, right? But it's like the becoming of a Hakomi therapist really takes time to craft from the inside out. It takes time.
Yes, and if you want to learn that method, you're gonna meet all your, like I did and you did and everybody else, all our narcissistic woundings and all the limitations that we have, they all come to the fore, and then we face them all the time, and we can't really evade them unless we're trying to kind of prevent certain things. But the therapists that I know, they're all on a trip themselves.
Yeah, of course, we're human.
Journey is better to say, a journey.
Well, and this is why it's relevant for this time, because we're all struggling how to live within this world of uncertainty and challenge and trauma, and it's not an easy life to navigate. And having a method that can help us to come back to this kind of basic goodness and potential that we have in our internal compassion, it's there. We can find it, right? It's right here.
We need to grow up.
We need to grow up. Yeah.
Most people know parents or older people who never grew up.
Yeah.
And but you can do something about that. That kind of moves it along a little bit, and that's very much part of the mix in the Hakomi method.
Mhm. Thank you.